Hi guys, I'm Mike.
And I'm Mark.
And this is F1 Fanatics. Welcome back to the Feeder series. It's another Feeder Fridays, and after our ones to watch over the past 3 weeks, we are now going to give you a little bit more of an introduction to the F2/F3 race weekend, because it does differ slightly to, well, probably quite a bit actually, to the Formula 1 race weekend. So for you guys watching, so you have an idea going. So I will run through practice and qualifying for you, and then Mark will lead us on what happens in the sprint race and the feature race. So
Yes, I will.
I will start off with practice. So practice is one session on a Friday. It is a 45-minute session, and essentially it is just the usual things to test and go through setups, because it isn't like F1 and it is practically, well, it is a spec series. There aren't too many things that you can change. It is just trialing slightly different things, circuit to circuit from there. That's why it's only really needed to have one session, and a fairly short one at that, at 45 minutes, plus also fitting in around the main event, which is F1 over the weekend. There is a limit to the track time it can have. Moving on to qualifying, and that is 1.5 hour sessions. It is not like the elimination process we see with Q1s, Q2s and Q3s in Formula 1. It is just 1.5 hour session, and drivers can go out at any point during that period, set as many lap times as they want in that period, right up until obviously the time runs out. Most drivers go out in a pack together, but some drivers will go in the gaps, the middles where the main pack goes, just to see if they can get a quicker time. But yeah, it's each driver has their own tactic to it. And
With them all going out together, a Monza type of situation has happened before in F3,
yeah,
I believe. And I believe it was actually at Monza it happened most recently.
what I believe it happened literally earlier in the day to the F1 qualifying, happening in the same way.
I think the F1 team said, we like how this goes, let's copy it.
What the funny thing,
Possibly go wrong.
I believe they got quite severely punished, actually, the instigators in the F3 one.
They did, which is why most people thought a few drivers were going to get penalised in F1.
Yeah, but I suppose they kind of let it go in the end, as a Ferrari was on pole. No, it wouldn't have just been for that fact. But yes, the only one thing to kind of round off in qualifying, if the person who gains pole position, unlike in Formula 1 where it just determines the grid, it just determines the grid in for the F2 or F3 feature race, but also you are awarded 4 championship points for the gaining of pole position. So Mark, I hand it over to you. The first one we probably focus on, because it's the first one of the weekend, is the feature race.
Yes, feature race. Basically, not much to cover. It's a longer race. Pit stop required, I still believe. I believe it's still required. And yeah, it's the closest. You'll see lots of racing similar to F1. Lots of tyre saving in the early part or late part. And one thing that makes the F2 feature race special is, depending where you finish, it will decide where you start in the sprint race after.
Yeah, which is quite an interesting concept, and it can see a mix-up. So it means that guys who have struggled and not necessarily qualified well, you generally tend to see the rookies who maybe have they're doing all right in their first season, round about the 7, 6, 8, 9, 10 positions. But when it's flipped, they obviously get a chance to start higher up the grid, and that's when it maybe leads to such a Mick Schumacher win, Zhou getting on the podium, etc., etc.
Yeah, so I think it's worth mentioning the points. It is a carbon copy of the F1 point system in the feature race, except the fastest lap will award 2 points instead. And the same rules applies if you have to finish in the top 10. Now for where the feature race entwines with the sprint race. The top 8 are flipped, and that is your starting grid for the sprint race. Of course, after 8, all the positions stay the same. Now, I know you're thinking, most drivers, once they get to 8, they have no one to overtake again, they'll defend 8th and they won't attack 7th. That's not really the case, believe it or not.
No, they just kind of fight throughout.
Which is really good. Like, most people would assume you just stay put, but no, I mean, fact is you can either guarantee points or bet on points, and most drivers would like a guaranteed larger amount of points.
Exactly, because you don't know what's going to happen the next day in the sprint race.
Exactly. So now on to the sprint race. The sprint race, of course, the person on pole is the person who finished 8th in the feature race, and so on and so forth, back down to 8th in the sprint race, and that's when you see the rest of the results.
Yeah.
So if we say drivers 1 to 8 finished 1 to 8 in the feature race, in the sprint race, 8 would be starting first, and 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then the rest of the field as normal.
Yeah, as expected.
I think it's also, although only the top 8 will actually finish, will get points for finishing, and the points are 15, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 1, there is still the fastest lap for the top 10, which is worth 2 points. So the person in 9th could set the fastest lap and finish on more points than the person who finished in 8th.
Yeah, which is quite an interesting concept, and it's quite something to kind of pay attention to more, and I think it is meant to be trying to level the playing field as much as possible to keep everyone in the running so no one kind of runs away with it. Because obviously they realise how big a thing this is. If you finish in the top 3, you gain enough super license points to progress into F1.
Yep, and I think it's... Oh, what was I going to say? But I think it's also important to mention that there is no pit stop mandatory in the sprint race, to my knowledge.
No,
it's changed,
there isn't.
From memory, it is not mandatory to make a pit stop in the sprint race, although we have seen some famous drivers to perform some amazing drives by pitting in the sprint race and cutting through the field.
Yeah, I think you have to get your tactics and your gaps absolutely spot on to make a pit stop work in the sprint race. I think most of the time they do just race throughout without pitting.
They do.
So that probably rounds up our thoughts on the sprint race, feature race, qualifying and practice. I hope that's kind of given you a little bit more information of what to expect on the race weekend. For those, if you have any other questions in terms of what happens on a race weekend in F2 and F3, please do comment down below on what you think of that. If you are new around here and you'd like to keep up with all the feeder series stuff, or if you're interested in F1 stuff, that's the main coverage on the channel. You can subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification, and you can keep up to date with all our latest content just like this one. But for now, you F1 fans, keep racing!